What's going on, SE Nation? Welcome back to another video. In case you don't know me, my name is Ramzi Marjaba. I'm a sales engineer out of Ottawa, Canada, and I use this channel just to help other sales engineers with whatever experience I have. Hopefully you guys find it beneficial. And today, we're talking about the top 10 ways you can lose a deal in a discovery or in a discovery call. So if you want to lose a deal, these are the things that you have to do. Or on the other hand, if you do not want to lose a deal, then you shouldn't do those. And just to preface this, I'm going to count in Arabic today just because I don't get to count in Arabic much these days and I'm bored of counting in English. So, واحد, assume. As sales engineers, sometimes we have to assume stuff. But instead of assuming, I like to call it theorize. And theorize is positive, assume is negative, just in my mind. But going into a meeting, assuming that you know what the customer wants or the customer needs, or which product is going to solve their problem, or what they're going to say, or what they think the problem is not a good idea. You may go in with a theory.
I've got a theory.
But the thing about the theory is you still have to prove it. When you're doing assumptions, you may just think that, okay, this is what I believe their issue is, and this is what I'm going to sell them. And that kind of closes us off on trying to dig deeper into what they might have as a problem, or what they might think is a problem. If you assume based on your experience, which is not necessarily out of the realm of possibilities, but if you assume based on your experience what this customer might have, because customer B had the same sort of company that had the same sort of issues, you go in there. The customer might not know that he has that issue or she has that issue. You might have to show them. But if you already assume that they have that issue and that's what they're thinking about, you think your job is half done. They might be calling you in for a different problem altogether. For example, I want to go buy a new car. The salesperson assumes I want to trade in my old car, where in fact I want to sell it to somebody else that I already have in mind. So they make the whole arrangement as if I'm going to trade that in. Towards the end of the call, that's going to rub me off the wrong way, personally. And I realize I'm less patient than a lot of people. But it may rub other people the wrong way as well. So if you're going to assume or theorize, make sure when you walk into a meeting room to either confirm your theory or to disconfirm it, if that's a word. And if you disconfirm it, try to find what problem they're actually trying to solve. If you're assuming they have problem A, but it turns out they have problem B, if you're able to pivot, fine, no problem. If you're unable to pivot, that's where the problem lies. So that's واحد, assume. اثنين, talking more than listening. And I see that all the time. We jump on a call with a meeting. That's what most SEs do. They just start talking. They talk about their experience. Salespeople do the same thing. They talk about the experience. I had one sales guy telling them about his 17 years of experience in the industry and lists off his resume, and that's 10 minutes before we even get into a meeting. That doesn't happen with SEs, but we do get excited about our products. We do get excited about features, and we tend to talk about that. And we're proud of it. I hope we're proud of the products that we sell. So the customer doesn't care if you're proud about your product. Like, sure, you want enthusiasm. You want to be able to show them that you like your product, but they don't care if you like your product beyond the product helping them. If you're boring talking about your product, that's a negative. But if you're too excited to even let them speak, that's also a negative. So find the middle ground, obviously. You know the saying, you have two ears and one mouth, use them proportionally. I don't think that's true. I think you should use your ears a lot more than you should use your mouth. 30% of the time you're talking, 70% listening. And there's a stat that I saw somewhere, I guess I'm gonna have to dig that up, that negotiators, the successful ones, speak 3 times less than their counterparts. So if there's 2 people negotiating, the person who speaks less is usually better at negotiating. So take that for what it is. Number 3, selling during the first meeting. This happens all the time, where the first meeting you meet the customer, and this has happened to me personally, where we did the spray and pray methodology, where the customer sat on one end and we sat on the other end, had the screen on, and just went through slide after slide after slide. Is this interesting? Is this interesting? Do you want to buy this? More often than not, that slideshow did not lead to any sales. It's the questions we asked in between the slides. And even those didn't lead into any sales. It just led into another discovery call. So if you're doing spray and pray, please stop. If your salesperson is doing spray and pray, try to butt in every few minutes. Like if you don't have the relationship to tell them, hey, stop doing spray and pray, try to change that spray and pray into a discovery, right? To at least guide the sprayage. I'm just coming up with new words today. What are you trying to sell on the first meeting? How do you know what problems they have? How do you know how intricate their problems are? There's a lot of information that you need before you're able to sell. Unless you're selling something that's very simple, like a car, where, that's a car, just go buy it. But then again, why do they need sales engineers if for that? They don't. So if you're a sales engineer, then it's a more of a technical solution. Keep that in mind while you're trying to sell. Telling the customer what their problem is. I've tried that with my wife, although she's perfect, but on occasion, I tell her, hey, you did this wrong. And suffice to say, that did not end well. And the same thing goes the other way. When she tells me I did something wrong, I don't enjoy it either. The best way to actually tell the customer that they have a problem is to let them figure it out. Ask the questions that you need to ask to get them to realize the problem. If you tell them like, hey, your infrastructure is crap and you need to change it, see how well that goes. And I'm not suggesting you try it with your customers or your wife or husband, whatever it is. Don't try that unless you're very good friends with somebody and you just want to piss them off. Ask the questions that you need to ask. Ask the leading questions. Leading questions aren't necessarily bad, unless you're leading them to the fires of hell. Leading questions can lead to good things if you solve a problem in the end. So ask those leading questions. Don't be shy about it. Just don't be sleazy about it either. And we can have another topic about being sleazy on a sales call. So if that's something that is interesting for you, make sure you comment below and let me know. And while you're at it, like, share, subscribe, do whatever it is that YouTubers say you should do. So cool. Khamsi, zoning out. And that's a personal pet peeve of mine because I've seen it happen. I've seen an SE zone out completely when the conversation turned from technical to business oriented. The thing about conversations is that they can go off and come back, go off a rail, come back, and they're fluid. You can't just say, I'm going to talk about this point, this point, this point, this point, and then I'm done, I'm walking out. You have to be there for your salesperson because they might be asked a question which they cannot answer and you're able to answer. But if you're zoned out and sorry, I was not listening, and they have to repeat the question, usually it's the salesperson repeating the question, which means it's losing something in translation, even though the customer is right there. It just doesn't look good on you. And how are you going to solve their problem if you're not even listening? There are business constraints to technical solutions. If they have $1 million and your solution is $10 million, how are you going to solve it? You're going to need to figure out a solution that will fit within $1 million if it exists. So be present even on the business conversations, because we are sales engineers. I don't know why I'm doing the quotations. We are sales engineers. Sales. They should call us business engineers, maybe, if that helps. But just pay attention to the conversation. We're not children anymore. We don't get to zone out. Sit not taking notes. And some of these things that I'm mentioning may not lose you the deal that day. Like, if you zone out that day, it might lose you the deal. Or if you don't listen, it might lose you the deal. But first off, I personally think you should be taking notes. It looks good in front of the customer. It shows that you're interested. But beyond that, if your sales cycle is more than 1 week, or if you're working on 10 different customers, you're going to forget almost everything by the end of the meeting. Another research, which I guess I should look up now, talks about how people listen at the beginning and at the end of the meeting, and then or retain information from the beginning and from the end of the meeting, but nothing in between. So the middle is called like the hammock or something. I'll try to find a link and put it in the description box below, in case you don't know where that is. So if you don't take notes, you're gonna forget them by the next time you meet with the same customer, or if you want to do a demo, or if you did the first demo and then they requested a second demo that's more detailed or more focused on one feature or one solution, one set of problems. By the time this happens, you're gonna forget a lot. You might remember the whole gist, but there are some comments that people say that if you don't write down, will hurt you in the end, because they're gems that you should be able to use it. Like, hey John, you mentioned last time that you're interested in this type of solution, and here it is, voila, right? Or hey Carrie, you said that about the competitor, this is how we do it instead. Does this work better for you? Examples, little things that can help you win the deal. It might not lose you the deal on the spot, but it will definitely not help you win the deal not taking notes, that is. Ça va? Sounds like 7, but it's ça va. Badmouthing the competition. And I am a person who went from company A to company B. Company A is a competitor of company B. I have the same exact customers. The same customers that I have a very good relationship with. When they met me again as in my new capacity in the new company, they were waiting for me to say something negative about my old company. They were just waiting on me to say something so they can pounce. And I didn't know that on the spot. But afterwards, I was talking to one of the people I have a very good relationship with as part of that team. And he told me, they were waiting for you to say something negative about the old company so they can pounce. Now that's an extreme example. Not everybody's going to move from competitor to competitor. But bad-mouthing the competitors in general is a bad idea for several reasons. List some off the top of my head because I haven't thought about this beforehand. One, you might have someone who loves the competitor or has a very good relationship with the competitor. And by bad-mouthing the competitor, you're insulting them. That's one. Two, if you bad-mouth their product, know that no product is perfect. And if you say that they don't have that feature, they may come up with it in the next release. Or if you say their product is crap, again, you're talking to someone who might be a lover of that product and doesn't think that it's crap. It is your opinion, right? Or I see so many things on Twitter these days of customers just outing salespeople who say bad stuff about the competitors. Hey, our product is a lot more secure. They will never be able to do this or that for you. Why are you talking about the competitors? Just talk about what you can do for them. Let the customer go to the competitor and ask, can you do this for us? If the answer is no, then you just won. If the answer is yes, then they're going to have to prove it. And if they can prove that they're lying too. Or if they prove that they're not lying, that they can do what you claim they cannot, it's better than you have not claimed that they cannot, if that makes sense. You might want to rewind the last like 30 seconds and repeat that. Not because it's a gem, just so to understand what I'm trying to say. 8. Not answering questions. People take it to an extreme that in a discovery, as a sales engineer, I'm supposed to be asking the questions. Keep in mind that it's not an interrogation. It's not Starsky and Hutch sitting across the table from a possible convict and telling them like, we ask the questions here. It's not like that. It's a conversation. You want to be asking the majority of the questions, but when you're asked a question, you should answer it, even if it's in a like high level. We're not going into the details. We're just talking about like ideas, or this is what we've done in the past for this customer. We solved this problem. Like, hey, how have you seen this issue with other customers? Yeah, we've seen it in a couple of different situations. But let's talk about it a little bit more on your end. Like, although this is an example and it could be different in front of a customer, I just answered like in 3 sentences, and then we dug in more into their problem. And if I want, I can, after digging in and capturing all my notes, because I am taking notes, I can answer their question in more details about the like other customers, as long as they're not competitors of that specific customer. So yeah, answer some questions. It's not an interrogation. 9, not sending follow-up notes. And people think it's respectful to send follow-up notes. It is. The reason I want to send follow-up notes is to get confirmation from the customer that I understood the problem correctly, that they agreed to my action items, and they agreed to their action items. And if they want to send this email to their supervisor, let's say we're talking about they have this problem, and I mentioned that we have this product or this solution that can do this, this, and that to solve the problems that you just mentioned, and I list them in the follow-up email. They can use that email, that snippet, exactly the way I wrote it, the way I want them to read it, and send it to the decision maker, which is a lot better than having to figure out what to tell a decision maker on their own. So follow-up emails are more than just etiquette. There's a strategy behind it if you use it correctly. They agree to what you just said in the email. If they come back at a future date and say, oh, you didn't tell us this, you can go down the email. It's like, yeah, I actually said it right here. We don't support X or Y, and you said it wasn't a problem because I have it written down in the email. So all these can help win a deal in the end. Again, you're not going to lose a deal on the spot if you don't send a follow-up email, or although customers do want to see that, they do want to see proactiveness. It's not just sending a quote, it's sending information that they can use to sell it internally as well. And last one, number 10. Did I say 9 or 9 on the last one? 10. Leaving the meeting without next steps written down or agreed upon. And the thing about that is, it is the salesperson's job, but as SEs, the best SEs do solo meetings. If you're in a solo meeting with a customer, you have to leave that meeting with next steps in line, so that you can tell the salesperson that this is what we're going to do for the next steps, or so you know what to do for the next steps. And even if you're in a meeting with the salesperson in one room, you have to tell them, if they didn't think about it, like, what is the goal? I have meetings with salespeople all the time, and they had asked them, all right, we talked about all this in preparation for the meeting with the customer, which is good. You know, you're doing a pre-brief, I guess. What is the goal? The salesperson might be working on a billion different things. They're not thinking about that specifically. But sales engineers, generally speaking, are usually more process-oriented, which means we remember that we need to have goals to go into meetings. So just use that to guide the salesperson. It's not a bad thing to tell the salesperson, hey man, or hey woman, we need to do this right. They'll appreciate you for it, unless you're condescending. So, you know, be a human. Anyways, these are 10. I actually had an 11th, but turns out I miscounted and I skipped one. So 10 ways to lose a deal during discovery. So good luck, and I will see you guys next time. Peace.